Oh, hello. You've just caught me. Just trying to tidy up a few shelves in the workshop. We've just cleared the van out, so we're a bit... Oh, it could set up a proper bring and buy sale shop, couldn't we, really? But yeah, just give me a minute, just nip to the toilet, and I'll be back, and I want to talk about a few different paints. Right, wash my hands. Right, you know who I am, Phil Beckwith, professional painter and decorator. I want to touch on a few little things that there's a bit of confusion, and if you're watching this, maybe you're a little bit confused. You might be somebody coming into the painting and decorating trade. You might even be in the painting and decorating trade and still a little bit confused, or DIYer, somebody doing a bit of decorating at home, and you've got a bit of confusion about what paint, where, and what you need to be using. I'm going to start first off, I'm going to talk about oil-based paints. Oil-based paints, we don't use a lot of oil-based paints now. I've got the odd one or two tins on the shelf here. If I probably told you how old it was, you'd probably go, Phil, bin it. And I'm not on about the Zinza bin, I'm on about putting it in the bin. But we have some oil-based paints here from Sickens that we've got, you know, when people order wrong colours and we end up, yeah, it's always back on the shelf. Actually got some tins of paint here that we've probably used on previous jobs that we've got left over, so we end up with a collection. Oil-based, water-based. I'm going to shout out to Dulux, i.e. Axco Noble. Sickens, if you're watching this, I'm going to get it out. I've done a video on this before. Sickens, Rubol, BL, this is the primer, but there is Satura BL. This is one of the best water-based paints that there was, and I'm going to go back 10, 15, 20 years before all your mainstream water-based paints were coming out. This paint should have been kept by Dulux, and I know somebody's going to say, oh, it's been reformulated and it's under the Dulux brand. Do you know what? I've tried Dulux brand paints. Please watch that playlist there. They're not this. They're not this. Really good paint. Right, let's quickly move on, because I don't want to make a 40-minute video. Oil-based paint. Right, the main one that I'm hearing a lot of confusion with, oil-based, Satinwood or Eggshell. You're going to say, what's the problem with that? Those products are self-undercoating. It doesn't mean it is like a Bedeck MSP. This is water-based. It doesn't mean it's a product that goes over any surface in one. When it says self-undercoating, it's an oil-based product. I keep telling you, oil-based product. Oil Eggshell is self-undercoating, and you give it 2 coats. And the 2 coats is 1 coat of Oil Eggshell with a 2nd coat of Oil Eggshell. It's not hard, is it? What you don't want to be doing, I'm just going to get you a tin out if I can find it. A lot of people are doing it, or I say a lot, some people who don't know. You do not use an oil undercoat, then 1 coat of Oil Eggshell. The only times you will be using oil undercoat under Oil Eggshell is when you're going from a bare surface. And I'll just keep that quite simple. If you've got a bare piece of wood, there might be some knots in it, so address the knots, let that dry, put a coat of wood primer on it. You can get away with thinning down a bit of oil undercoat if you haven't got any primer. So you prime it, you will then do all your rubbing down or nibbing down, because you don't want to rub off all that surface that you've just primed. Fill it up, cork it, do whatever you need to do, let that dry. Then you would quite possibly, to get that build up, put an oil undercoat on, let that dry, give that a nib down, and then finish with 2 coats of Oil Eggshell. And that is where you will get the build up over a bare surface. But if you have already got a previously painted surface for Oil Eggshell, what do? You would rub it down, prepare it as normal. If you so wanted to wash it down with sugar soap and use wet and dry sandpaper and do a traditional washing down of a woodwork, you can do. If it's a previously painted surface, all you need to do with Oil Eggshell is give it 2 coats, because it is self-undercoating. It needs 2 coats, but it self-undercoats. The reason why you give it 2 coats of itself is because the finish it dries to a bit of a sheen. A second coat on itself gives you a better finish. I can't really explain that very well. Let's put it another way. If you think you can get away with using, I don't think I've got any to hand, I won't reach out there. If you're using a water-based acrylic primer undercoat for speed over your previously painted surfaces, I know this is complicated. If you're thinking for speed, a coat of acrylic primer undercoat goes on the surface, then one coat of oil eggshell. Job's a good one. You've done it for speed and you're happy with it. But I tell you what, you go back after a week, that oil-based eggshell or satinwood, they're both the same sheen levels. They're not the same sheen levels, but the same sort of product. That will soak in to that drier surface of the acrylic-based primer undercoat, just like it would if you were using an oil undercoat underneath the oil eggshell. It deteriorates, probably deteriorates is the wrong word, it takes that luster off that eggshell or satinwood into the undercoated surface. Now if you keep with 2 coats of oil eggshell, it sits on itself and gives you a lot better finish. And I hope I've explained that well enough to make you understand that self-undercoating does not mean you, one, do away with an undercoat or miss a layer of paint out. All it means is you don't use an undercoat with it, you use the same product, i.e. the oil eggshell, as the undercoat, and then you put the oil eggshell over the top. That's how it's always been. It's nothing new. It's not something that we've just come up with because we see products that go over anything. Oil eggshell is self-undercoating that does away with the need to undercoat. But I've explained about the undercoat. Your undercoat is the first coat of oil eggshell finished with a second coat. And on that note, I'm going to leave it at that. I've lectured you on oil eggshell because that's the main thing. People are confused with oil eggshells and oil satin woods. Yeah. Now, when we do another video, we'll talk about water-based products because they're all different kettle of fish altogether, aren't they? They are. See you on the next one. I'm going to go and get my lunch now.